So I'll use acronyms, unfortunately, because it's impossible to avoid. But we talk about Terhap, and the first big question is, what is Terhap? So in terms of the upgrade works for Terhap, we're looking at improving the river water quality within the estuary with a real focus on pathogens. To do that, we're looking at what infrastructure improvements we can make to the combined system to reduce how often we overflow and what's the quality of those overflows. So that's the what. The why, so why are we doing that? The combined system, as it's been designed, discharges during peak wet weather events and it discharges into the Tamar Estuary. And when it discharges, it's a combination of stormwater and sewage, which flow within the old part of Launceston. Both sewage and stormwater flow within the same pipe. As a result of those discharges, the combined system is a contributor to the pathogen loads within the Tamar Estuary. So, as part of the Launceston City deal and TEMPT, we were able to receive some funding from the federal government, the state government, City of Launceston and TasWater. They're all contributing partners to a project to implement some of these infrastructure improvements that were identified. There was a fair bit of work done to identify how the combined system was working, what impacts it was having, when it overflowed, where it overflowed, and all that work went into the Tamar Estuary River Health Action Plan. And that plan also nominated a number of projects that we thought identified ways that we could improve that infrastructure to lessen the impact. So as I said, those four partners have all contributed funds to the project, and TasWater, as the asset owner, is the delivery partner for the project. So in terms of infrastructure improvements, I'm just going to work through a few of the overarching strategies in terms of what we thought we would do in terms of infrastructure improvements to try and reduce the impact of the combined system. So the first of those strategic approaches is to build more storage within the network. So the basic concept of this is that if we can store more flows within the network, when it does rain, we're less likely to overflow because we've held more within the system. And the way that we're intending to do that is by building storage facilities within the network. And I've put a picture up there of Margaret Street Detention Basin, which you would have driven past at various times. So that's a previous initiative that City of Launceston did to try and build more storage into the network. The one thing many people probably don't realise about Margaret Street is that there's the outdoor, well, under the uncovered part of the storage, which you can see there covered in grass, but there's also a covered component. So has this got a little zapper? Yes. This area here, there's a 7 megalitre covered storage as part of that, and then the remaining, once that's full, it then comes into the outdoor part, which is another 23 megalitres of storage. So we're looking at building covered storages within the network. It's really challenging to find good spots within the network to build storages, but we are we feel that we've come up with a couple of proposals where we can build some storage at Margaret Street for the western part of the network. There's another storage planned on the eastern part of the network, and then another storage over at Tea Tree Bend. Again, the storage holds the flows so that when there are peak flows in our network, we can store it until flows abate. Next strategic component of our works that we've identified is to upgrade our network, so building more pipelines and improving our pump stations. The intent of this is, along with the storage, so we're holding more, but we're also able to transfer more. So the construction of those pipelines and upgrades of pump stations means that when our flows are right up, we are able to transfer more flows to the treatment plant and for treatment at the treatment plant. I might just go back and explain the picture a little bit. That's actually underground at the Margaret Street pump station. Again, I'm still amazed by what we've got underground, so I've tried to put a few photos up that try and give a bit of an indication of what we've got under the ground. People typically will just see a hatch or a small building, but we've got significant infrastructure underground which handles these flows. So that's part of the pump station at Margaret Street. Next part of the strategic approach is to make sure that any separated parts of our combined system, so the combined system which services the old part of Launceston, around the fringe there's parts of the network which separate its sewage, so not your stormwater from your house, just your sewage, actually finds its way back into the combined system. So that adds to the loads of sewerage whenever we do have an overflow. So this part of our strategy is to try and separate where we can any parts which are separated and keep them separated so that they're not overflowing with the stormwater. Again, I like to explain the photos. That's the pump station at Foster Street, a very old building. It's at the end of Foster Street, right near the levees. And then, given we're storing and transferring more of these flows and trying to reduce the discharges, that means we're going to be taking more flows to the Tea Tree Bend Sewage Treatment Plant, which is the treatment plant that receives all these flows. So we're making sure that we're not impacting the performance of that treatment plant in a negative way. So we're looking at what upgrades we'll need to do to that treatment plant as part of this to make sure the transfer of the flows and the prevention of overflows within the network don't have an impact, or a significant impact at least, at the sewage treatment plant. So what will be the outcomes of all this? We've done a lot of modelling, and Rebecca Kelly's done a lot of work with us to try and really quantify the benefits of the project, because I think there was a previous speaker today who talked about making sure you understand what your benefits are at the start of the project and tracking them along the way. So I think I've sort of covered this already, but by storing and transferring, what we're trying to do is reduce how often we overflow. And there's a real target around the smaller rain events, which happen a lot throughout the year. Our modelling shows that they're the ones that we're going to be most effective at storing and transferring. And as a result, we get a reasonably significant reduction in how often we overflow, but then a more significant benefit in terms of how much we overflow, because over the course of the year, many overflows of a smaller volume add up to a very big volume. So our modelling shows that's where we'll have a really good improvement. And so that's the current, and then the brown is the modelled reduction. In terms of what we've been doing, because this project's been around for a while. It was announced probably at least a year ago, probably a little bit longer. And I think the community's been saying, well, what's happening with the Terhap? I know I get asked a lot. These are significant projects with significant infrastructure to be built. So we've been doing a lot of our design investigations so that we can ramp up the delivery aspects. So we've been doing geotech, we've been doing river crossing assessments, the surveys of the routes, a lot of heritage and flora and fauna work. And that allows us enough information to start having the discussions with the EPA about the approvals requirements for the different aspects of the job. It also informs our engineering design because, like I said, we're building new pipelines, we're building new storages, we're building new pump stations, and often we're building those in really challenging areas of the city. We're also looking at how we schedule all of these works so that we don't have too big of an impact on the community, and we also don't have too big of an impact on the market that's trying to deliver this. So we're trying to spread the works out as best we can. We've already got a large number of contracts out around the investigations and the design, and we're about to move into a delivery phase for one of the project components, which I'll talk a little bit more about. Here we go. There we go. So, like I said, we're trying to get a good flow of projects through the project and progressively roll out some construction activities. We did a fair bit of work at Willis Street early on, and that's the picture there where we removed part of the pump station for some maintenance to improve the reliability of that asset. The next couple of big bits of work that we're going to do are in St John Street, where we're building one of those pipelines I talked about. It's actually in the Esplanade from St John Street through to the Charles Street Bridge. So we're expecting. You're not dinging me already, are we? So we're expecting that work to start before Christmas. So keep an eye on that site, and we're also doing a lot of design work on the Margaret Street diversion works, which are down near the Invest Hotel. Like I talked about, it's pretty challenging, some of the pipeline routes and pump station works. I'll go pretty quick. This is Margaret Street. I've talked a bit about this. We're trying to go from here to here. This is Tea Tree Bend. So we've got some river crossings to contend with. We've got levees to contend with. We've got a lot of development to contend with. We've got bridge crossings. We've got acid sulphate soils. We've got low-lying areas to build within. So that's why there's so many investigations and such a focus on the design work. To look at that in another context, this is the East Launceston area that we're looking at building a pump station in. We're trying to get from here over to the Tea Tree Bend site. Again, we've got river crossings, we've got major roads, we've got other services, we've got levees, we've got bridges. It is going to be a really interesting and challenging project, but we're really excited about it. I will go very quickly through the last slides. I thought I'd have so much time and give you things. So we've done some geotech work off the back of barges to understand what the soil conditions are under the river, where we're looking for river crossings. We've gone under the city into significant areas to understand how we're going to interrelate with the existing infrastructure. The guy on the previous photo's got a backpack that he then did a cloud survey where they shoot lasers everywhere to give us a 3D image of that infrastructure, which we need to be able to do the design work. To give you a little bit of scale, that's people walking in that pipe. So this is all at Margaret Street. That's the service station at Margaret Street. That's the Launceston College. This is our infrastructure under there. We're needing to build more stuff in amongst and connect into. Got there. Thank you.